So we had a pretty ugly day, and I would even say that it was butt ugly for those of you who are paying attention. Let me pull up my pen here. You can see that we had, they're probably going to ask me if I want to upgrade, but here we go. You can see we had pretty ugly outside reversals today on the NASDAQ and higher volume, and the same thing on the S&P. I talk about that in today's report. But, you're basically breaking the 50-day line here, so it looks like you're going to test the 200. And I think if you did that, then you're probably going to test the, probably undercut the 50-day on the NASDAQ. So that's kind of the scenario I'm looking at right now. We'll see if we actually get that tomorrow. Trying to untangle my microphone here. And maybe that coincides with some undercut of these lows here, and then we get some kind of reaction rally because you are down off the peak a little bit, and a lot of these stocks have come down quite a bit. So I think if you're trying to go short right at this very instant, you may have another day or two of downside, but it may not be much, and you run the risk of things flipping back up in your face. So you got to be careful here, and you have to be nimble. A lot of things have been shortable over the last several days, and as you guys know, I got bearish. Somewhat bearish, or say cautious, last Wednesday, a week ago, in both of my written reports and video reports. And I talked about the froth and the group of hot IPOs that I listed, and I talk about that in today's report. So what I wanted to cover today, let's take a couple of ganders here at what's going on. Futures are reopening at 3 p.m. my time, which would be 6 p.m. East Coast time, and we're down. You can see the Qs are down 4, the S&P minis down $1.50. I think you're probably going to gap down tomorrow. That's what I'm looking for. I'm actually long the skew. I don't hold stocks overnight just because of news risk, and even if you're holding something like the SQQQ or the UVXY, there's always a danger of a morning gap up. Like, for example, this morning, I got up at 4 o'clock this morning my time, and the futures were down. And they were down pretty big. I think I saw the NASDAQ down 63, the NDX futures down 63 points. And then Mnuchin went on CNBC at 5 a.m. my time, 8 a.m. East Coast time, and talked about using a committee to review investments in U.S. tech companies by foreign companies, blah, blah, blah. And so that was viewed as, softening of the tone, which I looked at as like, yeah, right, okay, sure. Thank you very much. I will short you, and that's what I did early in the day. And those of you following me on Twitter know that. I talk about that in the report as well. But you can see we're probably setting up to move lower. But like I said, I try to keep things to a minimum in terms of risk overnight, because this market is always subject to some random move. And guess the gap is something I like to joke about on my Twitter page, but it's real. And things will just sort of jack one way or the other the next day for no reason. You see the futures up 45 just because, and so you sort of have to guard against that. And what that means for me is not having things where there's a potential for a lot of movement against me overnight. And the skews, you might get 20 cents against you in a worst case scenario, but for the most part, you want to be participating in a big gap down like we had Monday. Anyways, one of the things I wanted to go over, just to give you an idea of how butt ugly everything is. And what I do when I'm trying to determine this, or getting a message from the market, is watching this individual stock. So if I look at my buy list, we can look at the charts on every single stock that has been on this buy list, which I think is one of my current buy lists within the last. It's actually dated 6/18, so it's relatively recent. So you can see Apple breaking down, and you can see this Axon breaking down, and you can see Acacia starting to reverse. Adobe breaking down, Akamai breaking down, Amazon breaking down, Aptio breaking down. This Evaqua has been this kind of an ugly duckling setup. It's been hanging along the 65-day here and basically above the 50-day line. Very tight action, but it tried to move today and reverse. The market weight just became too much for it. AutoHome breaking down. Activision Blizzard breaking down, Boeing breaking down, Alibaba breaking down, BlackBerry broken down and breaking down, Best Buy even, which had been holding up pretty well yesterday and the day before, reasonably well at least, breaking down. This biotelemetry coming off. I don't know how that one got in there. Baidu breaking down. Billy, this is one of the hot IPOs, deflating entirely. Bluebird Bio breaking down. BOFI Holding, which is a little financial, breaking down. Box breaking down. Peabody Energy breaking down. Boyd Gaming breaking down. Baozoon breaking down. Carbonite breaking down. Caterpillar tried to rally today. It had a little undercut and rally attempt going through this low. Okay, what happened here? Through this low. Okay, that was yellow. So you rallied, you drop below it here, and then you tried to rally above it on an intraday basis, and you failed. So, breaking down. Keep going. Carbon Black has broken down and given everything up. Coupa breaking down. Salesforce breaking down. Crocs, nice run, but breaking down. CSX breaking down. CubeSmart's this is a REIT, I believe. Yeah. So it's more related to interest rates. CyberArk breaking down. Data breaking down. Dropbox broken and breaking down. 3D breaking down. Dexcom breaking down. Electronic Arts breaking down. E-Trade. Let's just since you can kind of get the idea of what's going on here, let's just pull anyone up. So Las Vegas Sands breaking down. Let's click on another one. ServiceNow breaking down. Let's move down lower to the list and just randomly click on PayPal breaking down. So you can see everything is breaking down. So the other point here is that you've come down for the last 2-3 days, and really the time to get short was probably Monday morning, if you're alert to it. And the way I feel about shorting in this environment is extremely dangerous, and you have to be extremely alert. You can't just be some wannabe or greenhorn trying to short for the first time and hoping that I'm going to guide you through it, because I can't. I'm too busy guiding myself through it during the trading day. And that's mostly what I do during the day. Anyways, I trade because I am a trader. I just happen to produce a website and try to teach people about the market as a side business, I suppose you could call it. But I'm focused on trading, so I don't really have time to sit there and send out, blog posts or whatever, going through what somebody should be doing in real time. My view is, if you studied my book on short selling and you've studied how I discuss short selling in the reports, and even in the last couple of reports, I talked about how if stocks break their 20-day moving averages, certain stocks, then that would trigger them as short sale points at that point in time, at that instance. And if you look at some of these, for example, NVIDIA was it was a short on Friday when it broke through the 20-day line. You can see that here. That was here, and then it gaps down to through the 50-day line on Monday. So you get a move back into the 50-day line today, you can short it there. So, and I talk about in today's report doing a blanket short on the NASDAQ names, because the NASDAQ 100 names, because they all look the same. They all look ugly. You can see Microsoft also breaking down, but notice again how on Monday you had the breach of the 20-day line. That's the green line here. So that triggers them as potential late-stage base failures initially. Now, you don't know for sure that that's how they're going to pan out. In this market, a lot of times you've seen a breakout fail, and you get a little downside move, and the stock stabilizes and turns back to the upside. And, of course, we can go back to NVIDIA to sort of demonstrate that, because you can see how back here, excuse me, you had, here's a base, and it's trying to break out through here. You get the idea. And it fails here pretty badly on heavy volume. So that breakdown, once you saw it, you could have actually been shorting it up here or on this day when it reversed. And then it comes down and then it, rallies back again and then rolls over again. It undercuts these lows here. Let me sort of clear that up. Undercut these lows here, and that triggers a rally back up to new highs. Okay, and that's how this market tends to work when you have these late-stage base failures. So I don't know if this time around we're going to start to see these things pan out in broader fashion. In other words, they turn into long-term tops, which maybe is a possibility. If you look at a name like NVIDIA on a weekly chart, it's been going for a long time. And also if you look at a name like Netflix even, same thing. It's been going for a long time. So these are in what could be argued are the latter stages, excuse me, of potential, or of uptrends, and thus potentially longer term tops, and not necessarily in the sense that they're done for good, but that you get pullbacks that are 20, 30, 40% and thus become shortable. And you haven't really had that in most cases. So whether we start to see that or not now in a general market top remains to be seen. And the market's going to top at some point. We're going to go into a bear market. I don't know if that's tomorrow, today, maybe it already started, or is it going to be later in the year? Maybe not even till next year. Maybe this is just a big shakeout that's going to take us down 10, 15% on the indexes, and then everything turns around and sets up again. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. And I don't even have to know, because all I have to do is watch what the stocks are doing and just be open to the setups in real time and be ready to go in either direction depending on what the setup is. This morning, and even like if you look at things like Nutanix, and I talked about this last week, that if it breached the 20-day moving average, that would trigger it as a short sale. So you had that happen on Friday. It actually happened on Thursday here. And when that happened, that brought it into play as a short sale target right here. So you had on Friday a rally back up just above the 20-day line, and then you rolled. And volume was really heavy. That was on the Russell rebalancing, but you could have shorted it right there. And also at the same time, you're failing on the breakout attempt here that occurred on pretty nice volume. You had some nice volume on that breakout, but it failed. And now who knows where you're at. You are undercutting, and I was open to this, yesterday. You undercut this low and you tried to rally above it yesterday, but that failed. And so now all that's happening is the undercut and rally move here just set it up as a short here today, and it's rolled over and gone lower. And you can look at names like Okta, same situation. As I've been writing it morphs into a short, potentially at the 20-day line. You had that here. That was on Friday. And then you broke down, closed below the 50-day line on Monday, and then you rallied right into the 20-day line this morning, which of course puts it in shortable range. So you could have shorted it right there if you understand how to short late-stage failed bases or failure patterns like this. And of course, that requires that you have read the book and have paid attention to my discussions about the short side, and you understand the mechanics of it, and you can do it yourself. I don't think this is in an environment where I can take somebody who's green to the whole thing or new to the whole thing and guide them through short selling. It's just too busy, and at the same time, it gets in the way of my own trading. And I think if I'm true to my report, then I am a trader first and a report writer second. And that's that's really where I'm at in terms of all that. But I feel like I've taught people enough about the short side so that if they're any good and they've been paying attention for a while, then they're probably capable of handling and understanding these setups as they occur in real time. So that's where we're at, and we'll see if we get some kind of a rally. I can see the futures now have turned back to the upside, which I guess is good. Because that could set up a shortable up move in the morning, possibly. So we'll see. But we have come off for a few days, so we could get any kind of a rally, over the next day or two, and then we'll see where we go from here. Anyways, written report should be out shortly, should be posted shortly. That's already been submitted, and that's all I've got for now. So, as always, thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys later.